a mysterious hunter from a surprising lineage that has colonized most of the tropical habitats in the Americas. A mortal enemy of one of the Amazon's most charismatic creatures. This killer is the shadow of a shadow. Mysterious, elusive, deadly. This is the jaguarundi. The jaguarundi is one of the most widespread cats in the Americas, one of the most diurnal, and one of the most adept to grassland environments. And yet, we know very little about these elusive animals. In many ways, the jaguarundi seems to resemble weasels and teras more than they do other cats. In fact, reports of jaguarundis are often misidentified mustelids. Their elongated body, solid color without spots or rosettes, and relatively small limbs and ears give them a prehistoric look. Early cats, such as Proilurus, probably looked more like jaguarundis than tigers or domestic cats. For a while, they were a mystery. Why are they so different from other Central and South American cats, like margays and ocelots? The answer turned out to be that they belong to a completely different lineage, and are more closely related to cougars and cheetahs. Cheetahs seem like a weird cousin to an American small cat, but there were cheetahs in North America for millions of years, until about 12,000 years ago. And like their cousins, they originated in Eurasia and migrated to the Americas via the Bering Strait. American cheetahs died out during the Holocene megafauna extinction event, which also saw the end of American lions, mammoths, and ground sloths in the region. But cougars and jaguarundis, who managed to colonize South America, survived there and later came back to recolonize North America. This difficult evolutionary history created sturdy and adaptable hunters. Jaguarundis survive in a variety of environments, from jungles to savannas to semi-arid thorn scrubs. But their success is limited by the success of their two mortal enemies, humans and ocelots. Humans hunt jaguarundis for sport and to protect their livestock, and ocelots often outcompete and catch jaguarundis for food. Ocelots can be up to 15 kilograms and are nearly as good at hunting on the ground as they are in the trees. Jaguarundis are on average only 5 kilograms and prefer sticking to the ground, where their gray or reddish coloration keeps them hidden from predators and prey. Ocelots are avoided with such rigor that jaguarundis usually hide for the entirety of their nemesis's nocturnal hunting shift. These little stocky cats will start hunting at sunrise, when the ocelot sleeps, and stay out until sunset. And unlike their bigger rivals, jaguarundis are also able to thrive in open grasslands. A study on the Mexican population showed that jaguarundis spend half of their time on open pastures and the other half in forests, while ocelots spend over 80% of their lives in jungle trees. Jaguarundis don't get to eat too many monkeys or nesting birds, but instead, they catch a huge variety of small prey. The average weight of their prey is 400 grams, about the size of a large rat. Ground-feeding birds and rodents such as guinea pigs are their favorite prey. But they are generalists, and in different areas, their diet varies. In areas with abundant birds, they can leap over 2 meters to catch them in mid-air. As a general rule, they eat whatever is most abundant and easy to catch, even if it's larger prey. In areas near humans, chickens are the easiest prey. This puts them in conflict with farmers who often kill them to protect their poultry. Because of their adaptability, they have colonized most of the Americas, from North America to Argentina. Only their cousins, the cougars, have a larger range in the Americas. There used to be reports of them in the southern United States, from Texas to Alabama, but the last confirmed sighting was a roadkill from 1986. Rapid urbanization and habitat fragmentation likely caused the disappearance of the American jaguarundis. In their current range, the populations are stable, especially in the rainforests and near grasslands of Mexico and the Amazon. They're currently considered a species of least concern, though their habitat is shrinking in some parts of their range. And though they're found in a massive expanse of land, they live in very low densities, and in some cases require ranges of up to 100 square kilometers to get enough food. Luckily, their adaptability and generalist diets make them great survivors, and more resilient to change than other New World cats. But that doesn't mean we can get complacent. Protecting their habitats protects these magnificent hunters as well as other animals in their ecosystems.
The weaseliest and weirdest dog you've likely never seen. It might look like a bear/wiener dog mix, but it's really a ferocious Amazonian hunter that can take down prey as large as a tapir. This is the bush dog. Bush dogs are one of the weirdest and most elusive dogs in Latin America. It sees everything that other wild dogs do, and it does the opposite. But that converse approach to life is what allows it to thrive across much of the continent. Bush dogs live everywhere, from Costa Rica to the northern tip of Argentina. They seem to thrive in tropical rainforests, but have also been observed in grasslands, swamps, and pretty much anywhere that gives them enough cover and access to water. Okay, so a jungle dog that likes water. What's so strange about that? Well, the bush dog takes that wet dog smell to another level. They're amazing swimmers, in part because of their webbed toes, and their bodies with small legs make them efficient swimmers. They're kind of like the otters of dogs. Bush dogs can chase prey in water, and when hunting in packs, they can even set traps to force their prey to get into the water, where another bush dog is ready for them. This strategy is especially effective against rodents like pacas and capybaras, which often jump into the water to escape ocelot and jaguar attacks. Imagine evading a massive jaguar just to get eaten by a 5-kilo bush dog. But don't let looks fool you. These canids are smaller than beagles, but have been observed hunting tapirs, the largest wild animal in the Amazon. To hunt them, the pack chases the tapir and bites at their legs several times until the tapir is felled by ankle injuries and blood loss. It's death by 1,000 little annoying cuts. Pretty much no animal is safe from these dogs. They, like many other canids, are extremely adaptable and will go for the most abundant prey available. In the Pantanal region of Brazil, 9-banded armadillos make up over 90% of their diet. In the mountain forests of Paraguay, rodents are their favorite meal. And in the Atlantic forest of southern Brazil, where fruit is abundant, they have adapted to eating bananas and papayas almost as much as meat. Unfortunately, we don't know much about them. They prefer areas that are generally inaccessible to humans. They're very fearful of people, and they avoid roads and paths. They rarely ever appear in trap cam pictures. All we know about them is through a few observations, information gathered from native peoples of the region, and from their behavior in captivity. They were first discovered in the 1860s from fossils. At the time, they were believed to be extinct, and it wasn't until the 20th century that we started to learn a little bit more about them. We know that they live in groups with a dominant mating pair and a few subordinates. They mate year-round and maintain social cohesion through very dog-like behaviors, such as tail wagging, squeaks, and signs of submission. They mark their territories with urine and feces, The smells of these are so pungent that in large parts of their range, they're known as vinegar dogs. Pregnancies last 10 weeks, and babies are born looking oddly similar to the cutest babies in the world, Tasmanian devils. This social behavior helps them hunt in dense forests, where ambush tactics are more effective than straight-line speed. This is in stark contrast with their closest living relative, the maned wolf. Yep, these two handsome fellas are related, one of the largest canids and one of the shortest ones. The maned wolf is a solitary canid from the South American grasslands. They like to hunt alone, growl at others from a distance, and catch small prey that they can hunt with ease by themselves. But the more communally oriented bush dog, which is only about a third of the size of the maned wolf, can catch the largest prey there is in their habitat. So the lone maned wolf got the looks and speed, but the bush dog got the gumption. They got that bush dog spirit in them. So how did these two cousins end up looking so different? Who was their common ancestor? That, we unfortunately just don't know. Animals don't fossilize well in tropical rainforests, and those who do are quickly covered by plant matter that makes it almost impossible to find them afterwards. But DNA analyses have shown that the bush dog is the more basal dog, meaning that their ancestor resembled them more. It was the maned wolf who had a glow-up once it came out of the jungle and into the pampas grassland. Unfortunately, deforestation and fragmentation of the rainforest are taking a toll on the bush dog. These little guys are semi-nomadic, which means they need large swaths of land to catch their prey. But as pockets of their habitat are getting smaller, they're less able to catch the food they need. Their populations have declined by 25% over the past 12 years, and with rainforest deforestation on the rise due to cattle ranching and mining projects, the bush dog is running out of places to hunt and live. Hopefully, as more areas get protected, they'll be able to establish stable populations. So please, support as many rainforest conservation initiatives as you can. It will help the bush dogs, as well as all of the other amazing Amazonian animals.
Deep in the Canadian rainforest, a saintly predator lurks. Elusive, rare, and majestic, this giant has entranced humans for ages. It's not a polar bear, nor an albino grizzly. It's the spirit bear. Today, we're on the coast of British Columbia, looking for Kermode bears. It's getting cold, and bears are getting ready to hibernate. But the rainforest gives us the best chance to see one in the wild. We've spotted some coastal black bears, but our goal is to see the elusive spirit bear, the white variant of the Kermode bear.
You would think that a white bear in a rainforest would stand out like a sore thumb, but they actually camouflage exceptionally well. The spirit bear is a ghost.
To some indigenous cultures of this region, the spirit bear is a sacred animal and a reminder of a harsh past. The spirit bear represents the Ice Age. It's almost impossible to see them in the wild, as they only live in a small area of the Canadian rainforest. The only way to get here is by boat or seaplane. This is maybe the closest you get to Dagobah on planet Earth. Hard to see this bear is.
Kermodes, or spirit bears, are actually just a color morph of the black bear, and they have a recessive gene that gives them that beautiful blonde champagne color.
That means that morphologically, these bodacious bears are pretty much standard black bears. They usually weigh between 100 and 200 kilograms, are about 1.8 meters tall when standing on their hind legs, and are generally solitary forest roamers. But only about 20% of black bears in the region get this unique coloration. They're like the shinies of black bears.
Like coastal black bears, spirit bears are omnivores, with a diet made up of a variety of roots, berries, and fish.
These rivers are the best areas to see them. We're in salmon spawning season, and their pungent smell brings all the bears to the yard.
There's a theory that spirit bears are excellent fishers because their light color blends in with the sky, making them less visible to the fish below them than a regular black bear would be.
Studies have shown that fish are twice as likely to avoid regular black bears than spirit bears. Over time, that means spirit bears capture over 30% more fish. The smell almost made me sick, but it also made my day. A spirit bear appeared to get some easy snacks. Seeing a spirit bear in person, you kind of understand why they've been considered sacred for thousands of years. They feel special. Not only are they incredibly beautiful, but they also have an otherworldly presence. This ghost is Hefty. He's equipped with one of the most sensitive noses in the animal kingdom, and strong paws to dig out delicious snacks. More importantly, he's not above eating leftovers, or using his tongue to extract every bit of flavor. Since it's almost the end of salmon spawning season, this could have been one of its last meals of the year. It's actually getting a little bit late in the season to find bears because they're almost done gorging themselves, getting ready for their long hibernation. They put on up to 15 kilograms of fat to sustain through the winter. Can relate, bud. While hibernating, their metabolism slows down to conserve energy. Their heart rate can go as low as 10 beats per minute. So the pressure to eat as much as possible is immense, especially when they're eating for two. A lot of female bears go into hibernation pregnant, only waking up later in the winter to give birth and start feeding those new cubs. That's right. They give birth while hibernating. The babies will grow in the den until it's time to go out to look for berries in the forest. I wonder what a baby Kermode would look like. I bet they're so cute. Yep, they're adorable.
One key source of food for the spirit bear are the flowers of the skunk cabbage, whose noxious fumes wake them up in the spring and clean their pipes when consumed.
Imagine going to the washroom after holding it in for 5 months. It must be the best feeling in the world. Not to end on that note, let's see that cute Kermode bear again. The Andean cat is the rarest and most endangered cat in the world. It lives at the top of fragmented mountain ranges and has a very selective diet. Very few people have ever seen it. Its coat blends in with the rocks. Its long tail and legs help it navigate the rocks with perfect stealth. And it prefers to move under the cover of darkness. It's practically an invisible cat. And as the climate changes, its habitat is disappearing and its prey is going away. Thankfully, there's a group of researchers working day and night to protect it, using technology to see what the human eye can't see. This is the Andean cat's battle for survival. Today, we're looking for an Andean cat in the immensity of the Andes. With fewer than 2,000 living individuals, this is the rarest cat in the world, and it lives in some of the most remote and vast places on Earth. Many of the top researchers working on this cat have never seen one alive, despite spending years in the mountains. Finding an Andean cat in the Andes is like finding a needle in a haystack. But even though running into this cat is almost impossible, every day we're learning more about them. Across South America, researchers are getting creative, and using all the technological tools at their disposal to understand this cat without having to interact with it directly. We're going to meet two of them to see what we're still learning about Andean cats.
But let's start with what we already know for sure. First of all, what is an Andean cat?
Andean cats are a South American small cat from the genus Leopardus. Despite their name, they don't have anything to do with the Old World leopards. They were just named that because their coat reminded Europeans of African leopards. Some of their closest relatives are the Pampas cat, the margay, and the ocelot. But while their cousins adapted to life in the grasslands and jungles of the continent, the Andean cat became a specialist in one of the toughest environments in the world: the Andean mountaintops, from Peru to Argentina. They mostly live beyond where the trees grow, at altitudes of usually over 3,600 meters. It's a habitat that's disappearing because of climate change.
Life in the mountains can be miserable, but Andean cats have adapted to be the sole kings of the Andean hill.
Water is hard to come by. There are few prey. And in the winter, temperatures in the higher mountains dip to below -15 degrees Celsius. Their ideal habitat is the steep top of rocky mountains that are not covered by snow year-round. They prefer areas that don't have a lot of vegetation or water because that would allow other predators to move in.
The Andean cat's evolutionary strategy wasn't to fight off other predators or to catch prey more efficiently, but to simply live where no other hunter could thrive.
Only its closest relative, the Pampas cat, can venture into these mountains. But they're not full-time mountain dwellers and can survive in a much wider variety of habitat. This hyperspecialization strategy is now affecting the Andean cat very negatively. But we'll get back to that a little later.
We wanted to see where this ninja cat lives and follow one of the top researchers as he looks for evidence of them in the mountains of central Chile. Andres, our South American correspondent, will be checking in from the rocky tops of the Andes.
This is Bernardo Segura, a biologist and member of a network of Andean cat researchers called Alianza Gato Andino, which, as you can probably tell, means Andean Cat Alliance. He studies these kitty cats using trap cams. His work has given us some of the greatest footage of Andean cats we've ever seen. Just stunning.
Hey, we're climbing a mountain in the Andes because we're looking for Andean cats. As you can see, it's very steep, it's very tall, it's very beautiful. But if we're lucky, we might see an Andean cat.
Yeah, we're climbing here the mountains in central Chile to see if we find an Andean cat. Probably no, we won't be able to see an Andean cat live because it's almost impossible. They are nocturnal, they are very good for camouflage. But we have plenty of trail cameras here, so we will check some and let's see if we find something interesting.
Bernardo has been researching Andean cats for over 8 years and has still never seen one in the wild. You heard right, even the top experts in the world, in areas where they know Andean cats live, have trouble finding this cat.
To survive on their own, these cats have developed a couple of tools. Andean cats are slightly larger than a domestic cat, but their tails and fur are much longer. They're like stretched-out tabbies with the thickest raccoon-like ringed tails you'll ever see. The stripes of the tails are unique to each individual, like a fingerprint, and they help researchers tell them apart. These tails also give them balance as they stealthily run and hunt around their rocky habitats, and their fur protects them from the punishing cold of the mountaintops. Thanks to these features, they can sneak up on prey like ninjas and kill it before they know an Andean ghost is there.
But being able to hunt in these habitats is just half of the equation. The other half, the most important half, is its prey. For the Andean cat, one species makes up the vast majority of its diet and is crucial to its survival. Meet the vizcacha.
This little cutie, famous for always looking sad, disappointed, and needing a nap, is another mountaintop specialist. Although they look like depressed bunnies, they're actually rodents, closely related to the chinchilla. In colder areas, animals tend to look like orbs. Exposed skin and large extremities make them lose heat very quickly. So the idea is to have as little surface relative to mass as possible. But when your predator is a mountain ninja cat, being able to hear it stalk you is more important than being efficient at staying warm. Without the large ears, they'd be very warm inside the cat's belly. Viscachas live in colonies, and at the first sign of danger, they communicate using high-pitched calls to alert each other of the presence of an Andean cat.
Much like with Andean cats, a lot of what we know about Viscachas and its natural habitat comes from observations on trail cams, like the ones Bernardo uses.
Can you see the trail camera?
The job of a researcher has its pros and cons. The landscapes are beautiful, there's always a chance of seeing something amazing every time you're in the field, and you get to expand humanity's knowledge based on your observations. But it also means going through tons of data, which isn't always what you're looking for. And yet, you can still find amazing things you didn't know you were looking for. Like this Viscacha and this hawk.
I have like 100. There was a rabbit over there. In this area we have like 100 cameras. In other places we have like 50. So we have a lot of trail cameras, and it's really interesting because the trail cameras are like eyes in the field that are working 24/7. So we have a lot of incredible footage of Andean cats, also from condors, from birds, lizards, to other mammals like cougars. So we have so many eyes in the field working 24/7, and I think that is awesome. Like when I'm in my home, I know that I have like 100 cameras working for me in the mountains. That is really, really cool.
The trap cams have taught us about the types of habitats Andean cats like, how they hunt, and how human activity affects them, and just generally what they do when nobody's watching. But one of the most fascinating discoveries about this cat was done by Bernardo in these very hills.
I'm really excited about a place that we have near Santiago. We're studying Andean cats. We have been able to follow the mother with a kitten 2 years in a row. So we're waiting for this year to see if the mother has another kitten. That is really exciting. It has allowed us to see how the mother is raising the kitten, how they are interacting between each other. It's really special to see the kind of bond that these animals have with the kitten, because the mother shares with the kitten for over a year, so they have a really strong bond, and you can just feel it in looking at the videos, because sometimes the kitten goes under the mother, their tails are like touching, and so I think that is the most exciting thing for me.
After a quick break, it was time to go back and check more trap cams.
The team hiked and rock climbed and checked all the cameras in the area. They even found an Andean cat paw print. But unfortunately, today wasn't the day Bernardo would see his first Andean cat. And they would also not appear in any of the cameras. But the mountain gave us an amazing consolation prize, a rare observation of a live hunt.
So we stopped here momentarily because we saw a fox on the other mountain across from us. And he was hunting a rabbit, an invasive rabbit. We're really excited to see a hunt, because usually when you see a fox, by the time you see it, it has already seen you.
But this time, we're far enough that it doesn't see us as a threat. With the coast clear, the fox goes to work. It starts with the unmistakable sign of stalking. The fox is walking close to the ground and being as quiet as possible. Just uphill, there's at least one rabbit. the fox makes its way through the bushes. And right as we thought he was about to pounce on the rabbit in the clearing, it changed courses and went for another one hiding in the bushes. A quick bite, a sharp cry, and the fox comes out victorious. A good day for the fox, even though he got a bit spooked by a fluffy cow.
This fox was fully unaware of us. Joe's worried about his food, and we got to see a whole hunting experience. So it's really, really, really exciting to see it. And it's just right there.
This is an amazing scene that shows the resilience and adaptation of Andean predators. Unfortunately for the Andean cat, but fortunately for the ecosystem, European hares don't usually make it to the rocky tops of the mountains. For these cats, there's no replacement for vizcachas. In some areas, the existence of Andean cats is deduced by the density of vizcachas. It's things like these that help us find cats in places nobody has ever seen them before. You could almost say that the vizcacha is to the Andean cat what the snowshoe hare is to the Canada lynx. Before we had trap cams, a lot of what we knew about Andean cats came from indirect sources. In fact, from the 1860s, when the cat was first officially described, most of what we knew about these cats was information passed on from locals, pelts, and scat. But over the past few years, our knowledge of these cats has grown exponentially, thanks to new technologies and a growing network of Andean cat researchers. Besides trap cams, the best way to study Andean cats without actually seeing them is through DNA analysis. Sometimes the only sign of Andean cats is poop. Researchers collect it and send it to a lab to get analyzed by the world's #1 expert in Andean cat genetics in the world. Of course, our friend Andreas went to meet her.
Mi nombre es Constanza Napolitano, soy la coordinadora del programa global de genética de Alianza Católica.
Constanza has a bit of a strange job. She's the person that receives and analyzes cat feces samples. If she gets a positive result, it confirms the presence of Andean cats in that area. Once she gets the sample, she processes it by heating it up and shaking it to make DNA easier to extract. Then, this machine concentrates the DNA. And then the samples are tested to see if they're good enough to get sequenced. After that, the DNA sequence is compared to other Andean cat DNA and other carnivores. If there are positive hits, the population gets added to the list. These DNA tests are giving us an even more accurate view of where the Andean cats live and how their populations shift based on human activities. In some cases, they show us dire pictures of habitat destruction and population collapse. The Andean cat has many problems. The first one is that its ideal habitat is so specific that it makes it inherently patchy, so it's hard for the different populations to connect with each other. This also means that they have very low genetic diversity. The biggest subpopulation has only around 250 Andean cats. As we mentioned earlier, climate change is making the mountains warmer, and cats are having to move higher to stay in their ideal range. Increased agricultural activity and poor water management are also affecting these kitties. But the worst thing that's happening to them is mining.
So the main threat is the habitat loss and habitat degradation. In these places, for example, there's a lot of mining activities. So many times the mining activities are located in the very same places that Andean cat lives. So they have to basically destroy the habitat of the Andean cat, and that is unreplaceable because Andean cat can't live in another area. It's not like the pumas, for example, that can live in these environments, but can also live down there in the valley. The Andean cat doesn't have that possibility. It only lives here, so any habitat destruction is really bad for the Andean cat.
But it's not all lost. All over South America, there are people like Bernardo and Constanza fighting to protect the Andean cat. If you're interested in following their research, you can find a link to their website in the description. If you live near the Andean cat range, get outside and see if you can spot one. You might even get lucky and see one in real life, like our friend Jorge Abarca, one of the few people to have ever ran into an Andean cat in the wild. Alianza Gato Andino is out there every day looking for Andean cats, studying them, fighting for their conservation, and educating the public about this amazing animal. People fight for what they love, and getting the locals to fall in love with the cat is one of the most effective ways of protecting the Andean cat. If you're interested in conservation but don't know where to start, consider getting a trap cam and observing the wildlife in your neighborhood. It'll help you see a whole new world you didn't know was right outside your door. This color is almost never seen in the natural world.
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue.
It is so rare, in fact, that it almost doesn't exist at all.
Oh my God, ang ganda!
Confused? Stick with me as we learn why blue is so rare in nature.
That same blue, which is the blue sky.
If you look up to the sky or across an expanse of water, it seems like nearly all the world is blue. But really, it's nature's rarest color. That's because actually being blue, not just appearing blue, is very difficult for living beings.
These are the patterns of invisible waves we use today for communications. In the same family, of vast potential for tomorrow, are visible waves, the waves which man calls light. In other centuries, they would have called it magic.
Seeing colors at all first comes down to how our eyes and brains work, which all starts with visible light. Visible light is emitted in waves from sources like the sun, fireflies, and artificial lighting. If you have what is considered normal vision, these waves bounce off objects around you and then enter your eyes. The retina then turns the light into electrical signals that travel into your brain. There, these electrical signals are turned into an image by your brain.
So really, every color we see is just what our eyes and brain interpret electrical signals to be, and different brains make different images, like our brains did with the iconic blue-gold dress in 2015.
That is our blue sky. Blue because it is dirty.
The sky above us only appears to be blue due to the white light from the sun being scattered by particles in the air.
Tiny particles of matter, little bubbles of water, which hides the real sky from us. The real sky is black with the blackness of space.
Blue has the shortest wavelength of all colors, and it's scattered more than the others, which makes us see the sky as blue under bright sunlight.
Though you'd think large bodies of water would just be reflecting the blue of the sky, the ocean appears blue because it absorbs red visible light, bouncing off the blue light waves that our eyes see. This extends to the animal kingdom as well. Leaving the blue flowers aside, most blues in nature are achieved with careful craftiness, and birds have certainly mastered this art.
The hyacinth macaw is one of those feathered friends that is almost entirely blue. This bird is the world's largest macaw and largest flying parrot. Their shocking bright plumage appears blue thanks to what is called structural color.
If you zoom in on these feathers, they reveal their true color, black. The way light interacts with the microscopic, melanin-heavy structures within the feathers, which include pockets of air, are what give them the appearance of being blue. These air pockets preferentially scatter blue light with its shorter wavelengths. The melanin then works to enhance the blue since it absorbs the other colors of visible light, which have longer wavelengths. So the blue isn't actually blue at all, though our eyes tell a different story.
Another species that takes advantage of this optical illusion is our beloved blue jay. These birds' feathers also use structural color to appear blue, except instead of black, their dark melanin is brown. Like in the feathers of the hyacinth macaw, the light scattered by these structures causes an effect similar to a prism. The other colors of light are absorbed by the dark melanin, and the blue is scattered, causing us to perceive their feathers as blue. Other birds that use structural color to achieve their blue looks are common kingfishers, Indian peafowls, indigo buntings, and of course, bluebirds.
But not all blues in birds are due to structural color. Some are because of a favorite snack.
Come to the snack bar now.
The blue-footed booby, which inhabits the Pacific coasts of Central and South America, gets its attractive bright blue feet from its diet. Carotenoid pigments, which they get from the fish they eat, are concentrated in their feet. The more fish they can catch and eat, which reflects their physical fitness, the brighter the blue.
And these bright blue feet are just about the sexiest thing a female booby can imagine. After a seductive dance with his bright blue feet as the main attraction, a male booby is sure to secure a mate.
The lady knows what she wants. Rich, cheery design, so vivid and alive.
Unsurprisingly, in the deep blue sea, you'll also find lots of blue, like the blue devil damselfish, the mandarin dragonette, and the blue-ringed octopus. Like other octopus species, the blue-ringed octopus achieves its blue hues through structures of its skin called chromatophores. They use these cells to make their iridescent blue rings pop when threatened. This warning coloration is known as aposematism and is used in many species to advertise to predators, "Hey, I'm toxic."
Considering that the blue-ringed octopus is the most venomous of all the octopuses, this blue-hued threat should not be taken lightly.
Oh my God, ang ganda!
The blue sea star is as royal blue comes. A blue carotenoprotein called linkiocyinin that's present in its skin, mixed with other carotenoids, are what give this starfish its vibrant color.
Here's a crisp, clear blue that harmonizes with the flowers and forms a pleasing contrast with the white background.
Although American lobsters are usually an unremarkable greenish-brown that helps them blend in with the sea floor, they can sometimes also turn a vibrant blue.
This coloration, however, is caused by a genetic mutation that sends a blue-causing protein known as crustacyanin into overproduction. Crustacyanin isn't unique to lobsters, as it's present in other blue crustaceans, like the aptly named blue crab.
The tiny Glaucus atlanticus, otherwise known as blue sea dragon, also sports a fantastic blue and white suit.
I'm wearing one now, a suit designed to be repeatedly worn, then washed in an automatic washer, and tumble-dried in an automatic dryer, then worn immediately.
This pattern actually appears on their lower side, and they swim upside down to expose it as they float along in the open ocean, helping them blend in with the water from above. They get their blue color from the food they eat, specifically from Portuguese manowar. But the color isn't the only thing blue sea dragons take from these highly toxic, jellyfish-looking human killers. They also absorb the manowar's toxins. As a result, blue sea dragons themselves secrete toxins from their skin, deterring any predators from gobbling them up.
We can't talk about blue animals without mentioning the most delicate and beautiful of the blue creatures, butterflies.
Blue butterflies exist all around the world, from the common blue of the British Isles, to the Ulysses butterfly of Australia, to Florida's Miami blue, the bluest of them all being South America's blue morpho. Much like blue bird feathers, the blue of most blue butterflies is created by a trick of light thanks to the structure of the scales on their wings.
There is one butterfly, and in fact the only animal we know of, that actually creates its own blue, not just to appear blue, but to actually be blue.
This butterfly, known as the Obrinia olivewing, is one of the few animals that we can call a true blue. That's because the blue of an Obrinia olivewing's wing is created by a pigment and not by a trick of light. This pigment is a blue terobilin-based pigment that gives the butterfly their utterly unique color in the animal world.
While many creatures appear blue, we've learned that it's not that easy being blue. Unless, of course, you're no Brina olive wing.
The vaquita is the most endangered whale in the world. They're also the smallest and cutest of them all. Their existence has been put at risk by illegal use of gill nets to catch fish that could be worth their weight in gold. To protect this tiny cetacean, a giant group of people from all walks of life has been assembled. They'll have to protect the vaquitas from criminal groups while using all the technological tools available for marine conservation. This is how to save the vaquita. The vaquita is one of the most critically endangered animals in the world. So what made these little porpoises so vulnerable? And what went wrong in our efforts to protect them? Let's start with the nice stuff. Vaquitas are one of the cutest animals alive. Imagine a baby dolphin panda wearing black lipstick in the shape of a smile. They're the smallest cetacean in the world. At 1.5 meters, these mini porpoises could fit in a bathtub, though we don't yet know if they like playing with rubber duckies. Their closest relatives are the equally adorable harbor porpoises, which live all around the North Atlantic. They're expert murky water hunters and use their sonar to capture prey in conditions few predators could. But because of this specialized hunting technique, the vaquita's range is limited to a small corner of Mexican waters. They live in one of the most beautiful underwater ecosystems on Earth, the Sea of Cortez, a place so full of life that Jacques Cousteau nicknamed it the aquarium of the world. This is a relatively shallow sea, at around 50 meters. The Colorado River flows into the Gulf of California, bringing nutrients into the sea and making the water murky and perfect for the vaquita hunting techniques. Outside of this zone, the water gets clearer, deeper, and less productive, which makes it unsuitable for the vaquita. So, in a way, the vaquita is trapped in this small aquatic paradise, a pocket of amazing beauty and biodiversity. One of the vaquita's most notorious neighbors is the totoba. At times, this fish has been more valuable than gold, which of course has attracted a lot of fishermen to the vaquita's waters. The totoba is an endangered fish. It can be up to 2 meters long and weigh up to 100 kilograms, which makes it the largest fish in the drum family. They control their buoyancy using a swim bladder, which is basically an internal balloon they can inflate or deflate to make themselves more or less floaty. A fish this size needs a massive swim bladder. In this case, it's about 80 centimeters long and able to hold the same amount of air as a soccer ball. Sadly, swim bladders are used in traditional Chinese medicine as a tonic believed to treat skin diseases and improve general health. The totoba's swim bladder is not only larger than most other fishes, but also thicker and more gelatinous, which is perceived as having additional medicinal components. These claims are absolutely false, but they've made the demand for totoba skyrocket. And since they've become endangered and their swim bladders more rare, the prices have gone up to ridiculous extremes. A fresh swim bladder can go for up to $5,000 US. Even though local fishermen only get a small cut of it, it can be more than they make in a year fishing legally. From there, it gets dried up and smuggled into China, where a kilogram can fetch up to $80,000. That's more expensive than pure gold or some illegal chemicals we can't mention on this show. Since this is such profitable business with so many competing interests, international crime groups have joined the battle for the Sea of Cortez and made it harder for conservationists and government agencies to protect wildlife. They harass government agencies and NGOs and try to keep these waters free of any oversight, while also implying local fishermen to illegally catch totoba. These fishermen often accidentally catch vaquitas, which are roughly the same size as their target fish. Because of the use of gill nets, the vaquita population plummeted from about 600 in 1997 to just 200 in 2008. And since the totoba boom, their mortality has gone up to close to 50% a year. As of this video's release date, there are only around 10 vaquitas left alive. So even though both species are protected, the fisheries are just too profitable for fishermen. And in some cases, even if they aren't fishing for these species, large areas become off limits due to environmental protections. This is great for the animals, but it creates conflict between the animals we're trying to protect and the local communities who depend on fisheries for their survival. Local fishermen have depended on artisanal fisheries for decades. There are few jobs available outside the fishing industry, and some fishermen make under $10 a day outside peak seasons. To protect the vaquita, the government has banned gill nets. These are massive nets that catch everything in their path. They're cheap to make and use, but they don't discriminate and end up killing many animals besides the intended catch. Vaquitas, who are, of course, mammals, get caught up in these nets and drown. So it really makes sense to ban them. The area where they're most commonly seen is protected, and fishing here is completely illegal. This is called the Zero Tolerance Area, or ZTA. And it's illegal not only to fish there, but also to even sail in those waters. Without these protections, vaquitas could disappear completely in a matter of months. From the point of view of the fishermen, their most effective method of fishing and access to some of the most productive areas has been banned. And for a community that's already struggling economically, these restrictions are hard to follow. Wait, it's not all doom and gloom. There's still some hope for the vaquita. At first sight, the situation seems helpless, but there are lots of people working to save the vaquita. You might wonder, why? Why put so much time and resources into an animal whose entire population couldn't even field a football team? On a broad level, the disappearance of a species sends shockwaves through an ecosystem. We wouldn't only be losing the vaquita, we would also risk the collapse of the delicate balance of life in the northern Sea of Cortez. Also, lots of species have recovered from extreme population bottlenecks. Another marine mammal, the northern elephant seal, went from about 20 living individuals to a population 200,000 strong in just over a century. Bison in both North America and Europe recovered from near extinction due to breeding and rewilding projects. California condors went from 27 wild birds to 500 in our lifetime. So it's possible to save the vaquita. One of the reasons people tend to be pessimistic about the future of the vaquitas is that their numbers are so small, and they might not have enough genetic diversity to recover. So we asked Dr. Barbara Taylor and Dr. Lorenzo Rojas Bracho, two of the top experts on vaquita biology and conservation, about this problem.
Well, I think it's an interesting lesson for conservationists of all types that deal with small populations, because when I came through as a graduate student many years ago, it was basically if you got below 100, you were unlikely to be able to recover because of loss of genetic diversity. And then it was like, oh, definitely if you're lower than 50, there were these rules of thumbs that were probably not bad rules of thumb for all the species in the world and given the tools that we had at the time.
But some species can survive or even thrive despite having a very small genetic pool.
Yeah, and a good example, San Miguel foxes or Iceland foxes. I mean, their coefficient of inbreeding is really high, and they've been there, surviving, and we have to change the way we think sometimes about the genetics.
We had this sort of unique opportunity because Lorenzo and colleagues were getting samples from vaquitas in the 1980s, 1990s, when there were hundreds, so they probably had the genetic diversity that vaquitas have had for hundreds of thousands of years. And we could compare their level of diversity to ones that we got in 2015, and there was no loss in genetic diversity. So basically, they didn't have any to begin with, so, they're less vulnerable to losing it.
So in other words, the vaquitas can recover. But the first thing that needs to happen is we need to stop vaquitas from getting caught in gill nets. To protect these adorable cetaceans, the Mexican government created the Zero Tolerance Area, where, as we mentioned earlier, it's illegal for all boats to enter at all. It's a positive step for conservation, and one that was long overdue. Scientists had been calling for protections for decades, but there had been almost no enforcement of conservation laws. And local fishermen hadn't been given alternatives to compensate them for their loss of income. It's a complex problem, so we asked the people in the field about trying to get gill nets out of the vaquita's habitat.
Hi, my name is Heidi Martinez, and I am the ship biologist on board Sea Shepherd boat. So the original mission actually was named Milagro. So Milagro started off with the retrieval of illegal nets. What was really shocking was that during the first couple of campaigns, a lot of Totoaba nets were retrieved. Within Milagro 3 to 6, there was about 1,113 nets that were retrieved from that area. And so those were a lot of nets that were in the water at all times. And 91% of those nets were all Totoaba fishing nets.
This, of course, made the Totoaba fishermen very mad. Some local fishermen saw this as a law imposed on them without consultation and enforced by foreigners, which, to a degree, was true. The fishermen wanted Sea Shepherd out of the Sea of Cortez, and Sea Shepherd wanted the fishermen's gill nets out of the Vaquita's habitat. The tensions reached an all-time high when a fisherman died in an encounter with one of the NGO's boats. Sea Shepherd and other NGOs had been targets of fishermen and criminal groups for months. Their gill net removal activities disrupted the Totoaba fisheries, and the friction quickly escalated to violence. Locals, possibly aligned with criminal groups, had been throwing Molotov cocktails, knives, and bottles of fuel at their boats. But in 2020, a speedboat driven by locals crashed into one of the Sea Shepherd's vessels. One of them tragically died. It had been enough. A new conservation approach needed to be found that took into consideration the fishermen's livelihoods and diminished the roles of criminal groups. Sea Shepherd changed its philosophy and went from getting directly involved with fishermen to simply reporting illegal fishing activities to the Mexican Navy. And just as importantly, their boats became vessels to support scientific expeditions.
I think one of the challenges Sea Shepherd faces in what we're doing is that not a lot of people actually know the current state of Sea Shepherd. When they think of Sea Shepherd and its efforts here, a lot of it is very filtered version and not in the most positive light. And I think that deters people from wanting to get involved, whether that's spreading awareness or even donating, where I think that there's a huge misconception of what our goal is here and what our mission is here and what we're doing recently and how well we have been collaborating with the Mexican government.
But despite having had approaches to wildlife conservation that not everyone agreed with, they still achieved a lot when Vaquita conservation was even less publicized than it is today.
I got so blessed and to be able to have the opportunity to be there for the 2023 Vaquita survey, be with so many scientists and see a Vaquita myself. That was incredible. But I think what was most life-changing than getting this experience was getting to hear, Dr. Barbara Taylor stating that the Vaquita would have gone extinct if it wasn't for Sea Shepherd. And to me, that changed any doubts or questions that I had about Sea Shepherd's involvement with it.
Sea Shepherd's support of scientific projects has played a positive role in Vaquita conservation. Up-to-date Vaquita numbers are always needed. Locals often dispute the Vaquita numbers, and at different times have called them not endangered or already extinct as a way to discredit conservation efforts. So let's go over how we know what we know and what scientists and conservationists are doing with that information.
The first estimates of Vaquitas, and the first abundant estimates, were done using planes and ships and pretty standard methods that are used for telling how many animals are out there, whether they're on the land or in the water. And Vaquitas were just particularly difficult because they're small, they never occur in big groups, they're usually singles or pairs, they don't splash. And so they're really hard to see and they avoid noise. So they'd avoid the ships. So they were really a difficult species to work with, and even more difficult from an airplane because they live in really productive water that you can't see through, turbid water.
Those early studies showed a decline in Vaquita populations from 600 to 250 in just 11 years. But we needed more precise data. And if seeing them wasn't always possible, the next best thing was to try to hear them. For this, they use underwater recorders that log info every time they detect Vaquita echolocation clicks. They operate 24 hours a day, so the first sample, using multiple recorders, had about 3,000 combined days of data.
It was right when the government had protected a large area and wanted to know whether Vaquita were recovering, and instead the acoustics revealed this catastrophic decline that eventually went to about 50% per year. So you're losing half of the species every single year. And without that acoustic which we could monitor every single year, we wouldn't have been able to know the status and raise the alarm.
To this day, these acoustic tools are crucial in population studies. They're combined with visual studies and drone footage to give us the most accurate population data available. But the numbers we're getting are dire. The last study, done in 2024, showed that there are about 10 vaquitas left in this small protected area. Researchers have tried conservation measures like keeping the vaquitas in open water pens, but these unfortunately failed. This was part of a larger project called Vaquita CPR. It was a desperate attempt to rescue vaquitas, temporarily move them into a sea pen, and buy them time until the gill nets were removed. In November 2017, the team rescued a female vaquita. It was the first time scientists were learning how vaquitas would do in semi-captivity and cared for by people. Some cetaceans, like bottlenose dolphins, can live and even breed in captivity, so there was a bit of hope. At first, she seemed to be doing well, but after a few hours, things took a turn for the worst. She was struggling, and her condition was quickly declining. The team released her back into the wild, but she came back. She knew she needed help. The veterinarians and researchers did everything they could to save her, but unfortunately, she died that night. The necropsy showed that she basically died of stress, and so the team decided to stop their mission. In one day, the hopes for vaquita protection in semi-captivity were crushed. The team was heartbroken, but their new approach and their next steps were clear. The answer would have to come from changes in human behavior. The vaquita who tragically passed was named Esperanza, which means hope in Spanish. Her name would live on as the inspiration for Project Esperanza, a new concerted effort series of initiatives to protect the remaining vaquitas. There was a lot of work to do. First, we needed to stop illegal fishing, but avoiding direct confrontation with local fishermen was super important. So instead of targeting them, the focus switched to targeting their gill nets in protected areas. The Mexican Navy installed 193 concrete blocks with steel hooks. Any net that goes near them gets stuck in the hooks and gets destroyed. So as a result, gill net fishing in these areas decreased by 90%. According to Dr. Lorenzo Rojas Bracho, these blocks are the main reason we still have vaquitas. The next thing that needed to happen was to convince fishermen to use more sustainable fishing gear. Local organizations like Pesca ABC and Pro Natura Noroeste have been trying to persuade the local fishermen to use hook and bait instead of gill nets. They've also removed hundreds of ghost nets, which are discarded nets in the ocean that continue to trap and kill animals. Maybe most importantly, conservation groups are engaging locals, and they're willingly participating in their projects.
We realize that if all the stakeholders agree to work jointly to protect vaquita in this case, or the species, you have a good chance of success. But if one of the stakeholders don't do their job, then the whole thing collapses. And probably that's one of the reasons why we have few vaquitas. And that stakeholder, unfortunately, were the fisheries authorities. The fisheries authorities were absent from any program to protect vaquitas.
The relationship between scientists and fishermen has improved. There's now better communication than ever before, and more locals are participating in surveys and protection campaigns. Scientists do fisherman days, where they take locals on their expeditions to explain their goals and methods. And thanks to the newly gained trust, fishermen are even helping to set up and retrieve the echolocation recorders.
Now we have had several workshops with the fishermen and sociologists and other experts to see where are the problems to transitioning to alternative fishing gear. But again, in this case, day one, you have to bring all the stakeholders and the fisherman principle, most important.
Locals are being involved and are receiving training to spot and identify vaquitas from boats, a dream job for any animal-loving person like you and me. So there is hope for the vaquita. Scientists, government officials, the Mexican Navy, fishermen, international NGOs, and independent supporters from around the world are united with the common goal of protecting the vaquita. Links to all of the groups mentioned in this episode are in the description, so click on them to join the team and help save the vaquita. So there you have it, one of the most complex conservation stories in the world, but not a unique one. All over the world, conservation efforts create conflict with locals who depend on the land or the sea to survive. So every conservation effort must include input and buy-in from local communities to be successful.
This is the rarest canid in the world, with under 500 individuals in the wild. They live in a relatively small area in Ethiopia, and their range gets smaller every year. Conflicts with dogs and humans have made them the most endangered predator in Africa.
But there is still hope, and efforts are being made to save this strange foxy wolf.
This is the plight of the Ethiopian wolf.
The Ethiopian wolf is one of the rarest animals in the world. If you've never seen one, you're not alone. Very, very, very few people have.
As their name suggests, they're only found in the Horn of Africa, living on the remote high plateaus of the Ethiopian highlands. This is a cold environment few large wild animals thrive in. Some of their neighbors in this punishing ecosystem are the gelada, the walia ibex, and the mountain nyala. But despite all this apparent potential prey and vast habitats, there are under 500 Ethiopian wolves left in the wild, making it the world's rarest canid and the most endangered carnivore in Africa. Because of this, we're only beginning to understand them.
But what exactly are they? They're cute, scraggly little guys for sure, but their appearance doesn't really scream ferocious wolf. Like, tell me this isn't a fox. Their place in the canid family tree was a subject of debate for decades.
Ethiopian wolves have a puzzling look, which is reflected in the huge number of names they've gone by.
I'm going to tell you some of their names and where they come from to see if they make any sense to you.
First of all, it's of course the name Ethiopian wolf, which is based on its similarities to the African wolf and the Arabian wolf. But you can see that the Ethiopian species is clearly leaner, shorter, and has a more elegant appearance compared to its wolfier cousins. Their second most popular name is the simian jackal, named after the Simian Mountains of Ethiopia and the coloring of the golden jackal. They do look pretty similar, especially when jackals have the characteristic white throat markings.
But the Ethiopian wolf is taller, more reddish, and much more huggable. Not that you should hug them.
And finally, they also go by the name simian fox, on account of their pointy ears and similar coat to some red foxes. But the Ethiopian wolf is clearly something different. Bigger, leaner, meaner, and decidedly more dog-like than a fox.
Unless you just look at the face, then it's straight up foxy. So is it a fox, a jackal, or a wolf? Who is this mysterious canid? DNA analysis came back with a shocking answer. They're more closely related to European wolves and North American coyotes than to other African species. How is that even possible?
The leading theory is that about 2 million years ago, the range of the gray wolf extended well into Africa. Some populations found a home in the Ethiopian highlands and became small prey specialists due to the abundance of rodents in the area. Over time, the gray wolf disappeared from the rest of Africa, and the Highlanders adapted their morphology to be rodent exterminators, to the point that they no longer resembled their gray wolf ancestors.
Over the past couple million years, those forest wolves underwent a full transformation into the mountain-dwelling rodent killers we know and love today.
Wolves are built to chase and kill large prey, like deer, elk, bison, and moose. Their snouts are relatively short but powerful, and their teeth help them stab, slice, tear, and chew prey. The Ethiopian wolf snout has become elongated, with more spaced out teeth to better catch and grasp its squirrely meals. Its legs are made for pouncing rather than long-range chases, and their coloring blends in with the grass in the eyes of the burrow-dwelling rodents. Other canids, like the South American maned wolf and the Tibetan fox, have convergently evolved the same features as adaptations to similar lifestyles.
All the specialization was caused by changing climates and adaptations to new habitats and prey. In the case of the Ethiopian wolf, the main prey that turned them into who they are is the hilariously weird, big-headed African mole rat.
Just look at these guys. They are the strangest member of one of the weirdest rodent genera. They're born to dig and rarely spend any time above ground. Their big heads support powerful muscles that help them dig for large distances and to bite potential predators into submission. When they go foraging for herbs, they dig holes all the way to the herb patches and quickly grab as much as possible before returning to their tunnels and blocking the entrance.
These foraging moments are the Ethiopian wolf's best chance to get them.
But the mole rats are also quick, and they will scurry back to safety at the earliest indication of danger. It can be a frustrating hunting experience for an Ethiopian wolf. If they've missed too many times, they're known to angrily claw at the tunnels. But at this point, the mole rat is long gone. Sometimes, though, it is the Ethiopian wolf's day. The rodent will come out of the hole without realizing that the wolf is waiting for it. And after a quick pounce and a fast bite to the back of the head, down goes the mole rat into the Ethiopian wolf's gullet.
Of course, they are carnivores, and even though big-headed African mole rats are their favorite meal, they will catch and eat any rodent, hare, bird, and reptile they can find. After all, they have families to feed.
Ethiopian wolves usually live in packs of about 6, though groups of up to 20 individuals have been observed. These are hierarchical groups with established dominant breeding males and females. They usually have 2 to 6 puppies, which are weaned as young as 3 months old. They disperse soon after and find other groups, or start their own.
Unfortunately, even in the most successful packs, they're not making babies fast enough to account for their loss of habitat.
This formerly wild mountain habitat is quickly turning into farmland. Farms destroy prey habitats, which impact predator populations.
The growth of the barley industry in the region has been particularly damaging to rodent populations.
On top of this, the areas between mountains have been developed by humans. This means that for wolves to travel between hunting areas, they have to cross roads and possibly be in contact with humans and their dogs.
Dogs are a problem because they can give Ethiopian wolves diseases like rabies and distemper, or mate with them, creating hybrids that don't have the unique features that Ethiopian wolves need to survive in the mountains.
Even cattle are a hassle to Ethiopian wolves because they overgraze and eat the local rodents' food.
Thankfully, there are some ongoing conservation projects, like the Ethiopian Wolf Conservation Program. Their work combines education at the grassroots level to promote wolf protection, as well as a vaccination program for both dogs and wolves, restoration of native plant species, and a translocation of wolves between mountains to keep the separate populations genetically healthy. It's a difficult job, so if you want to help save the Ethiopian wolf, go to their website and see how you can help. Maybe we can help them thrive as much as their northern wolf relatives.
A cat that loves to get wet and fish in a swamp. It sounds a bit weird considering everything we know about cats, but everything about this cat is weird. Its shape has been compared to that of an otter, and its behavior to that of a raccoon. We should be all over this guy. And yet, in some parts of its range, it's just been rediscovered for the first time in 30 years. And in others, it's only seen a couple of times a year. Who is this mysterious someone? This is the flat-headed cat. We have great news! For the first time in 30 years, flat-headed cats have been spotted in Thailand. This is one of the rarest and strangest cats in the world, so let's meet this little weirdo to understand all the hullabaloo. Flat-headed cats, which are very different from flat-faced cats, are part of the Asian small cat genus Prionilurus, which means serrated teeth. All the members of this genus specialize in small prey and use their steak knife teeth to shear it. Flat-headed cats' closest relatives are the rusty spotted cat and the fishing cat, which we have talked about already on this show. But while the fishing cat lives in the mangroves and deeper wetlands of South and Southeast Asia, the flat-headed cat is even more of a specialist and can only live in the shallower waters of peat swamp forests. It's such a specific habitat but the only places to find them are some forests in the Malay Peninsula, Borneo, and Sumatra. One of the coolest things about fishing cats and flat-headed cats is that they love water and the food that lives in it, but they have gone in slightly different evolutionary paths. The fishing cat is a thick and powerful cat that can swim and catch prey while swimming. But the flat-headed cat has adapted to fish from the shore, kinda like an egret or weird guys in a dating app. So if they were D&D characters, the fishing cat would obviously be a fighter, and the flat-headed cat would be a rogue. Who wants to play D&D but we're all tabaxi? Flat-headed cats are tiny. They weigh about a quarter of your average house cat. Their body is pretty much as long as your pet's, but since they're more seafood guys than rodent guys, they don't need to jump and pounce. So their tail has shrunken to a little stub no longer than your cell phone. Since they fish from the shore rather than in the water, they have a combination of hunting adaptations that make them kinda otter-like, or even raccoony. It's hard to imagine a trash panda or swamp panda cat, but they have all the tools they need to hunt, take the fish out of the water, and eat it quickly on dry land. Just like Gollum. To fish, these raccoon-like cats have forward-facing fangs, so they can hold on to large prey in their mouth without having to dislocate their jaws like a snake. Then, the teeth are pointy enough to secure the prey so that the cat can carry it away. Their funny little heads, which give them a name that sounds like a weirdly specific name given to you by a toddler, are actually perfectly adapted to dive into the water at great speeds. They're hydrodynamic, like a shorebird's head. Their feet are webbed, so they can navigate the peat swamps of Southeast Asia. They also use them to wash their prey, like a raccoon would. And their short legs give them a literal low profile, so they can sneak up to prey and away from predators. They're actually so tiny that an average adult weighs as much as a chihuahua. Yep, they have predators. As weird as it sounds for wildcats to be hunted, for larger predators, they're just a different flavored snack. A very sinewy snack. Civets, leopards, crocodilians, and possibly even snakes and dholes will take a flat-headed cat given the opportunity. That's because their habitats are full of life and support a great number of species. It's very idyllic, but that also means that people keep moving deeper and deeper into their domains. Their swamps are now very fragmented, and in some parts, the water is contaminated by farm and factory runoff. A quick glance at their estimated range shows the level of fragmentation that has led them to become an endangered species. Okay, all of this was just a basic introduction to the flat-headed cat, things you might know from asking locals or observing their body. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. First of all, why weren't they seen in Thailand for 30 years? The southern tip of Thailand is in the Malay Peninsula. This is an area that historically has had lots of sightings of flat-headed cats. But over the past few decades, political instability, low research funding, and difficult access to the swamps has made it pretty much impossible to study these cats in the wild. But over the past few years, local researchers from the Department of National Parks, Wildlife and Plant Conservation, and supported by the conservation NGO Panthera, were able to enter the Princess Sirindorn Wildlife Sanctuary and set up trap cams to see if the cats were there. We got the opportunity to chat with one of the researchers to tell us how this was done and what it means for flat-headed cat conservation.
I'm Dr. Ratapan Patana Rangsan. I'm a conservation program manager for Panthera Thailand.
Off-screen, he told us that instead of trying and failing to pronounce his name correctly, we could just call him Dr. Tom. He started out at Panthera working on tiger population research. But since the rediscovery of the flat-headed cat in Thailand, his work has focused on this small cat. He knows so much about these cats, and we just had too many questions to ask him. For example, what was the forest like? What's it like doing research in a swamp? And how do you even get there?
Yes, because the type of the forest is the peat swamp that is very difficult to access. For example, in the flatland, like in the normal forest, the ranger can walk about 20 kilo per day. But in the peat swamp forest, they can walk only 1 or 2 kilo. Like you have to go down into the water, like chest deep, and maybe walk and climb up some tree and then walk.
So what was the result of the studies? And what was the most surprising thing about finding flat-headed cats there?
When compared with other study with Panthera Malaysia and Panthera Indonesia that they also study with the flat-headed cat, what amazed us is that the concentration of the cat in the area. Like in Malaysia and Indonesia, they have conducted study for 10 years and the detection rate is low. Detection per effort is low. They have been deploying camera for 10 years. They got about 50 detections, but 2 years we got about almost 30 detections.
That's amazing. What are the next steps? And what would you like to find out next?
Right now we can only expand a little bit of the area to detect them, which part of the forest that they disperse. What we want to do, the next step, we want to really go, we call grid study. So we need to go into every part of the forest. We put the grid on the forest and we need to explore every grid. And that's very difficult because the width of the forest is something of 20 or 40 kilo, but that's mean 40 days to walk because inaccessible type of forest. And if funding allows, we want to color them to understand more about their ecology, because if you look in the publication, there are only about 30 publications on this species, and half of them are record of finding, not deeper understanding of their life, their biology, or what else. This is very rare cat.
Thank you, Dr. Tom, and thank you, Panthera, for supporting research on this mysterious kitty cat. As he mentioned, there are very few studies on these cats. Scientists need to do a lot with very little. So let's dig into what those studies have found out. Research at the Songkla Zoo has given us some insight into the day-to-day rhythms of the flat-headed cat's life, or as they call it, their time budgets. Both males and females ate and were more active at dusk and dawn. Males spent more of their day resting, but females hung out with other cats a little bit more than males. Females in general were more social than the males and slept less. Overall, they were found to have similar time budgets to other members of their genus. This might seem like not a big deal, but the fact is that nobody had ever measured this. Making sure that our assumptions are correct is a necessary part of science. This information helps us build better research methods and gives us extra insight on where and when to find them. We know for sure now that the best time to see them is at night. Another thing we knew about them but is getting a bit of nuance is their need to live close to water. We're now beginning to understand ways in which farmers and flat-headed cats can coexist. The main threat to flat-headed cats is habitat degradation and destruction. The palm oil industry has caused the destruction of virgin forests in the region. Almost half of the plantations are in places that used to be forests. But almost all of the usable land is already being used for plantations. And small-scale farms at the edges of the swamp can support flat-headed cat populations.
We think we have our hope because even though people occupy the land like oil palm plantation, the habitat is about the same to plant the palm tree. They have the mold, the wet mold, and that the fish out there, if the landlord agree, they can plant some thicket for the cat to hide in the wet mold if they have fish. It is possible that we can share. This is our goal, that animal and people can coexist. Because we have a lot of oil palm plantation that have mixed habitat like that, if the cat can adapt to that environment and the owner agree to protect them in their land because they have big plot of land. We can expand the population. We can recover the population not only in the forest but in the plantation that is coexisting. This is our ultimate goal.
Thank you again, Dr. Tom. As Dr. Tom and his colleagues continue their research, we'll keep you up to date. Who knows what amazing new discoveries they'll make. More expansive trap cam studies will help us see what their true range really is. Radio tracking will help us understand where, when, and how they move. A combination of these two technologies might also help us see how they interact with each other and what their mating looks like. And studies on overfishing, water pollution, and diseases will teach us about their threats and hopefully the best way to deal with them. There's still so much to learn about this strange little guy, but the more we understand about its behavior and protect its habitat, the more we will learn about it. Our knowledge of these animals grows exponentially with additional, focused research. So if you can, support conservation organizations like Panthera, who are working to fund research and protect cats all over the world. These are some of the largest superorganisms on Earth, but also some of the least studied. They burn your skin and turn to goo if you try to grab them. It's a disappearing act that tells us something amazing about these deep-sea alien-looking creatures. They're not a single animal, but a chain of clones working together. How does that work? And what questions does it ask about what it even means to be an individual? This is the fascinating world of Siphonophores. Today, we're taking a deep look at one of the weirdest superorganisms on Earth, the Siphonophores. From afar, some species look like gigantic, segmented deepwater jellyworms. From up close, they're a series of conjoined clones, all working together, but many with different jobs. Sounds confusing? It is. So let's start from the beginning. They're cnidarians, distantly related to jellyfish, which is why they have such a ghostly complexion. This massive sea monster lookalike is Apolemia uvaria, sometimes incorrectly called the stringed jellyfish, or more accurately, the long, stringy, stingy thingy. It's the largest siphonophore ever recorded at over 40 meters, or about 150 feet. It's longer than a blue whale, and if it was an animal, it would be the longest animal on Earth. But it isn't. This is a group of clones attached to each other. Individually, they look like this. They're called zooids, and they're about the size of a grain of rice. That means that a single siphonophore can have tens of thousands of individuals joined together to make a biological mecha predator. The most amazing thing about them is that they start as a single individual, and the way that they grow blurs the line between individual and organism. Like you, me, and most other animals, siphonophores start as a fertilized egg that grows into a mature body. This is called the founding member of the colony. As it gets bigger, a stem grows. This is the infrastructure that will connect all of the clones. The stem has specific spots called growth areas. Here, clones of the founding members start to grow, but they no longer look like the original zooids. They will grow in different shapes depending on their job. Some will be meant for swimming, some for catching prey and digesting it, some for sexual reproduction, and some for floating. You put together enough of these zooids and you get yourself a ginormous colony. You might be wondering, if they're attached to each other and they have the same DNA, why are they considered individual animals? Each of them has its own nervous, vascular, and digestive systems. If you separate them from each other, they'll survive for a bit, but not for long. It's an amazing feat of organization. The different types of zooids appear always in the same order, making it a truly harmonious structure. Older zooids will be at the back and younger ones at the front. They swim, hunt, and reproduce together without a brain to coordinate their actions. Each zooid has a specific function and it worries basically only about itself, but sharing nutrients and energy through the stem. This modular system allows them to create amazing superorganisms, like the apolemia we saw earlier. This was filmed in Western Australia by an underwater drone called Sebastian. It was filmed at 630 meters deep and it was organized in an eerie spiral, giving me some Junji Ito vibes. Some smaller members of these species have been observed at depths of up to 1,000 meters, and there's likely more species yet to be discovered at the depths of the ocean. The tentacles can be over 5 meters long, about the same length as a car, even though they look tiny in this video. Each of them is armed with microscopic needles full of venom. If prey touches it, it gets paralyzed and eaten. Yep, touching long, stringy, stingy thingies hurts a whole lot, but we'll get into the Siphonophores you should worry about in a little bit. For now, let's keep looking at some of the most amazing species in the world, like Forxalia edwardsii. It doesn't have a common name, but can I suggest the boa scarf siphonophore? This beautiful species is usually around 1 to 3 meters long, but this particular superorganism was almost 5 meters long. At the front, you can see a little balloon, followed by a series of inflatable chambers that suck in and expel water to give it jet propulsion. The rest of the body is full of feeding and reproductive zooids. This siphonophore is so huge that you can even get close and see all the small animals get caught in their feeding zooids in real time. It looks beautiful and harmonious, but for these little invertebrates, this is not a scarf, but a noose. The feeding zooids will dissolve them, absorb them, and send the nutrients to the other zooids throughout the stem. And how about a siphonophore with a stem so short, but with such a high density of zooids that it basically looks like a jellyfish pom-pom? This is a deep-sea dandelion, a strange siphonophore that feels more at home sticking to the bottom of the ocean rather than swimming around like most of its cousins. This one was seen at a depth of 2,500 meters, or about 5 CN towers deep. These mysterious balls of zooids are very difficult to study, so we're not exactly sure what the little balls it seems to be shooting out are. Regardless of what they are, it's amazing to see a creature living peacefully in an environment that would be absolutely unsurvivable to us. These are just some of the hundreds of siphonophore species. There's a huge diversity both in looks and behaviors, as they have adapted to life at different depths, temperatures, and hunting different prey. Some of the coolest research we're seeing right now is how they evolved to catch different types of prey. As you can imagine, by the sheer amount of species, sizes, habitats, and shapes siphonophores have, they eat different kinds of prey and have adapted their hunting tools to be as deadly as possible to their main prey. These tools are on the sides of the feeding tentacles. They're called tentillas and are basically bags full of venomous needles. When an animal gets stuck in the sticky tentacles of the siphonophore, the tentacle moves it towards the tentilla, where it's injected with venom. Of course, it's hard for them to be selective about what gets digested, so they often eat their own tentacles along with their prey. It's like if you were eating an ice cream, but the ice cream was glued to your hand, so you had to eat your hand too. It works for them because they have thousands of tentacles, but don't try that at home. Fish-eating siphonophores have thick tentacles and long nematocysts to subdue muscular prey. Those who eat crustaceans, like shrimp, have long tentacles that wrap around their prey to inject in the soft tissue at their joints. Siphonophores who eat tiny crustaceans have super sticky tentacles to catch fast-moving prey. And those that eat a little bit of everything have a combination of these features. So what is the siphonophore most likely to sting us? That is, of course, one that likes the same food as we do and lives close to us. It's also one of the prettiest creatures at the beach, the Portuguese manowar. They might look like glass sculptures with giant satin frills, something that would make a very pretty chandelier. In some cases, these frills, which are really their feeding tentacles, can be 30 meters long, about as long as a blue whale. But all that long beauty is just living toxic fishing net. Portuguese manowar are specialized in small fish, and their tentilla are designed to pierce flesh. Sometimes they float around together in groups of thousands of siphonophores, and wherever there's warm water and large schools of fish, you can be sure there's manowar. As of the release of this episode, there are warnings in the UK and India because of the high number of these cute, venomous creatures. It's a big enough concern that they're being called floating terrors in the news. A fleet of manowar can take out an entire school of fish, and if you happen to swim among their thousands of tentacles, you will be in immediate pain, possibly have a severe allergic reaction, and in some cases, even cardiac arrest. So please, stay away from these cute little bags of poison. Even when they're dead, they can still sting you. But if you do get stung, the best way to deal with it is hot water. No need for vinegar or urine, like it's sometimes advised by locals. They're just going to make you stinky, but that won't help you dull the pain. The hot water breaks down some of the toxins and deactivates any venom needles that haven't deposited their venom. There's so much to learn about these fantastic creatures. So we asked possibly the #1 expert on siphonophores to tell us how we're learning so much about them, and the problems with trying to study a gooey deep-water invertebrate.
My name is Casey Dunn. I'm a professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at Yale University. And I'm also the curator of invertebrate zoology at the Yale Peabody Museum. So when most people think of the ocean, they think of the coast and the waves. And there's siphonophores out there, but they get all chewed up and torn up in the waves, and then you don't see them, except maybe the Portuguese man of war, which is really amazing. It does wash up on beaches. Most siphonophores don't. So what this means is that you have to get out into the open ocean and then collect them. And there's a few ways to collect them. Even nets tend to damage them. So my favorite way to collect siphonophores is to go way offshore, 100 or more miles or something in a boat, and then jump over the side of the boat and then snorkel or scuba dive. Even though the ocean's very deep, we're not going to the bottom. We're just swimming around in that top layer of water with a bag of jars. And you just can develop techniques to get the animals to swim into the jars. And then you bring the siphonophores onto the boat. And then we have to get them back to the lab.
If you're not careful, they'll break apart, and your research is done. This fragility, combined with venom, is one of the reasons that they have fascinated us for years. You might have even interacted with them without even knowing you were in the presence of an underwater alien.
For, more than 100 years, we've been learning so much about the ocean by going out on these research ships, throwing nets over the side, pulling the nets through the water, and then bringing those nets back up to see what animals and plants and things that the algae are in them. And this has been so important. It's told us, so much about fish and crustaceans and things that are out there. But if you're on a ship and they bring up this net, the first thing that is done with that net when it lands on the deck of the ship is they get a hose and they spray off the net because it's slimy, right? Because it's been down deep. That slime is the siphonophores and the other animals. They're so fragile, they just kind of turn to goo.
And the research is ongoing. As new technologies are developed, we're not only getting more answers about siphonophores, but also more questions are being raised every day.
One thing I love working about siphonophores is we get to ask these really exciting questions with the latest tools, like how what cells are present and how are those cells interacting and how does the genome coordinate that. And we get to do that work, which uses, tools that didn't even exist 5 or 10 years ago sometimes. At the same time, when we're out there watching the animals and then collecting them and looking at them, we're doing exactly what people did 250 years ago, which is just observing biological diversity. And I love that I get to do all of those things, right? It's not that because we can sequence genomes, we don't need like microscopes or to just sit with a notebook and take notes on what the animal is doing. We actually need to do all of those things. Like it's not that new technology made old methods obsolete. It's that new technology adds additional questions that we can ask in addition to the old questions that really, might involve just sitting and watching, quietly with the animal and being surprised. And sometimes that's when you see the most amazing things because you didn't even expect it.
That is absolutely fascinating. And as Dr. Dunn said, there's still plenty left to be discovered. All we need is some underwater drones, lots of care, and a keen eye. And lots of protective gear. Meet the Kodkod, the smallest cat in the Americas. The cat with the smallest range and second smallest wild population in South America, with about 10,000 individuals in the wild, and one of the lowest genetic diversities ever recorded among mammals. Everything about this cat is small, including our knowledge of it. But we're gonna change that. In this episode, we've collected nearly all the existing footage of this kitty, and even getting face-to-face with one of the few Kodkods in captivity in the world. And we're heading into the legendary Valdivian forest to see if we can find the legendary Kodkod.
We're going deep into the jungle here, and this is one of the weirdest places I've ever been to. In the best possible way. Everything looks so ancient and alien and unique.
This is the Kodkod. Today, we're looking at the Kodkod, or Guinea, the smallest cat in the Americas. We're going to use those two names interchangeably, but don't worry, they mean the same thing. These pocket-sized kitties are tiny. At just 75 centimeters in length and weighing a maximum of 2.5 kilograms, they're smaller than a Chihuahua. They're part of the Leopardus genus, along with 7 other South American small cats. They have adapted to a life in a very specific corner of the world, and have evolved to be almost invisible to predators, prey, and humans. But don't let their elusiveness fool you. These cats have a deep bag of tricks, including swimming, an extremely rare behavior among wildcats. Their range, the part of the world where they live, is basically divided in two, which has resulted in 2 distinct subspecies. The northern Kodkod of the drylands and mountains of northern and central Chile is slightly larger and has a sandier-colored coat. The southern Guinea, from the ancient rainforests of southern Chile, are smaller and have darker coats and a more pronounced spotted pattern. It thrives in Chiloé Island, so it gives us the best chance to see them in the wild for ourselves. This southern subspecies also has a larger number of melanistic cats. Aw, mini panthers. They're so well adapted to being almost invisible that very little is known about these cats. There's almost no available footage, and information about them is just starting to emerge. We sent our South American correspondent, Andres, to go and investigate and see how we're learning about these cats. He'll be reporting from the jungles of Chile throughout this episode. Off to you! His first stop is the habitat of the northern Kodkod, the Chilean Matorral. These rugged forests are home to some of the most emblematic predators in Chile. There are culpeos, pumas, and buzzard eagles, among other predators. It's an ecological hotspot full of amazing species, so it was the perfect spot to start our adventure.
So this is a really cool place because this is a place where mountains and valley meet. And the animals of the valley and the animals of the mountains all come here at the same time. And there's a lot of people. And like people bring food. Kodkods are going to come here to get the food from the mountains, the food from the valley, and the food from the people. And by food from the people, I mean chickens and any other small livestock they might have, which is not great for them. And it's one of the issues they're facing right now because a lot of people don't like them, especially the older generation. So that's one of the main challenges we're facing here. Trying to get people to love Kodkods, even though sometimes they might eat their chickens.
Of course, Andreas is not alone in this adventure. He's following one of the world's leading Kodkod experts.
Hi, I'm Diego Ramirez from Guiña Working Group.
The Guiña Working Group is a conservation and research organization devoted to understanding the Kodkod. A lot of what we know about Kodkods comes from their trap cam footage. And finding the best place to set up the cameras is key.
We are going to put this camera tray in that tree. So we try to take some pictures of the guiña in this natural environment to try to understand a little more the ecology of this so cryptic and elusive cat.
Trap cams are the easiest way to keep an eye out on the forest. Some research projects might have hundreds of cameras spread around a small area, all hoping to catch a glimpse of an elusive species.
This is a flashlight, and this is the objective where the camera takes some pictures of anything or any animal that come in this part. The camera will take videos. That way, we can understand a little more about the behavior of the guiña cat, to know if the guiña cat is present here, what kind of landscapes she knows, understand a little more about the behavior, richness, and other ecological parameters.
The sensitivity of the trap cams can be adjusted. The more sensitive they are, the more pictures they take. But it also makes it much more time-consuming to screen all the pics. Part of the difficulty in studying these cats is the sheer amount of work required to see all the pictures. Especially in ecologically busy places, you could get thousands of irrelevant pictures. But then one day, you hit jackpot. This was the case with a group of scientists who found a Kodkod den inside a dead tree. It was a mom and a single baby. This confirms other trap cam footage where it's usually a mother and a single baby. This low reproductive rate is unfortunately bad news for their conservation, but more on that later. Trap cams are part of the puzzle, but they can't tell the whole story. One of the greatest threats to Kodkod conservation is accidental trapping, which unfortunately often costs them their lives. Chile has a surprising invader. It eats a lot, carries diseases, and reproduces like rabbits. It's of course the European hare. European hares were introduced to South America in the 19th century. The plan was to give hunters an animal species that could reproduce quickly, so that there would always be enough of it to hunt and eat. But the hare is famous for two things: being quick and reproducing even quicker. And soon after they were introduced, they had spread throughout the continent. Hunters still catch them, and they often use inhumane traps called huichas. These traps tighten around the neck or leg, leading to long and painful deaths. It's really too sad to show you, but imagine a wire slowly tightening around a leg, cutting all the way to the bone. And to make matters worse, sometimes they catch other animals, like kodkods, which often die or get very injured. These kinds of traps are technically only legal for catching hares and other invasive species, but of course, native animals don't know the laws, and many fall victim to these cruel traps. Fortunately, some kodkods get rehabilitated and re-released by organizations such as Casa Noe. Casa Noe is a natural park. They rehabilitate animals throughout the year, and on some very rare occasions, they get kodkods. Rehabilitation is a tough road, but sometimes we get beautiful images like this. this beautiful orphaned Kodkod kitten rescued in the island of Chiloé. The baby was taken to Chiloé Silvestre, a conservation center where it was rehabilitated for 5 months until it was old enough to be free. Then it was taken to the forest and set free. They even got multiple angles of the kitty's first leaps of freedom.
It's so cute. Makes me emotional seeing those little kitties sprint into freedom after being hurt and scared for so long. But as we all know by now, not every injured animal can be re-released. Sometimes they have to be kept in captivity because their injuries would mean a death sentence in the wild.
We're in Deadliest, Chile, and we are seeing one of the few captive Kodkods in the world. This place here does an amazing job of rehabilitation. These cats sometimes come here with like injuries, they fix them up, send back into the wild. Sometimes when they can't get released back into the wild, they stay here where, like they'll live the best life they can. Take a look at this guy.
This is an Animalogic exclusive. Few people have ever been able to see a live Kodkod, and even fewer have been allowed to film them. There's only a handful of guineas in captivity, and though it's sad that they can't ever live in the wild again, their stories are powerful reminders of the dangers Kodkods face in the wild. The two here were victims of hair traps, and unfortunately got so injured that they wouldn't survive in the wild. One of them lost a front paw, but it doesn't seem to bother it too much.
It's great to be able to see them. In the wild, you could be a stone's throw away and fully miss them. And that's good. That's their job. Kodkods are specialist ambush predators.
Under the cover of darkness, a quick pounce is all that's required to secure a meal. The stripes, the quiet steps, the ability to stay eerily quiet. It's all a masterclass in stealth. In these ecosystems, the Kodkod rules with an invisible clawed thumb. East of the Andes, its closest relative, the Jeffries cat, has adapted to a wide range of habitats and prey across the grasslands, savannas, and forests of eastern South America.
The relative absence of natural barriers has made it a very adaptable species. The guinea doesn't have that opportunity.
Its habitat is bound by the Patagonian tundra, the Andean mountains, the Pacific Ocean, and the Atacama Desert. This cat is a dense forest specialist. But in this small pocket of land, the smallest range of all New World cats, it has established itself as one of the top predators of small prey. For the southern subspecies, the Valdivian forest is their home. This is a rainforest with cooler temperatures than other South American jungles. The Andes rise close to the Pacific, creating a high-altitude humid zone with amazing endemic life. Almost half of the wooded plant species here can't be seen anywhere else in the world.
Andreas went to the Valdivian forest to look for Kodkods. Let's see if he survived.
The #1 spot to see Kodkods is the island of Chiloé, off the coast of Chile.
So we're in Chiloé now. Look at that. It actually reminds me a lot of British Columbia and Canada. It's got kind of that temperate rainforest vibe. But this place is more isolated than British Columbia. And a lot of the things that are here are nowhere else in the world. So I'm just gonna go out into the forest, see what I can find.
Finally, after a few hours of driving into the hills, the rainforest.
Okay, we're going deep into the jungle here. And this is one of the weirdest places I've ever been to, in the best possible way. Everything looks so ancient and alien and unique. You might not see it from like this angle because this camera is not meant for that, but I'll show you some of the weird things that are here. You know places like this where you can only see a few feet ahead of you. I always think, is there a Kodkod right in front of me and I'm just not seeing it? If I just looked hard enough, I was little eyes, little ears poking out behind a branch or something. You kind of start seeing it without actually being there. It's like your brain just gets so like alert about anything that remotely looks like a cat.
This is the home of incredible animals. The Monito del Monte, an odd marsupial related to the Australian branch of the family, lives among the trees. Darwin's frog and Darwin's fox, first described by the Big D himself, enjoy the humidity and cover this forest provides. Birds, like the black-faced ibis and the fire-eyed dugong, love the weather and the food that the forest serves up. There's also some of the most famous prey of the Kodkod, a little bird who spends more time on the ground than flying.
That right there is one of the most iconic birds here.
It's the Chukau tapaculo, a ground-dwelling bird with a ray gun-sounding call and a fiery red chest. For any of these species, a walk in the woods is a dangerous proposition. Lurking somewhere in the shadows is the Kodkod, who's always looking for a petite dinner. But of all of them, the most striking is the largest known Kodkod meal, the poodoo.
We've been here for like 25 seconds, and we saw our first poodoo. Can't see it from here, but it's right there. Just sitting in those plants over there. So tiny. Super cute.
Poodoos are the smallest deer in the world. They're just slightly larger than a Pomeranian. This proud mama and her adorable baby seem comfortable with Andreas filming them for a while. The baby even approached him for a split second, and his mom followed him soon after. There's a single video of evidence of a Kodkod eating a poodoo. It was taken by a park ranger, but it was impossible to tell if the Kodkod caught it or if it just happened to stumble upon a sick or injured poodoo. We'll know more about the Kodkod's diet with more research, or by miraculously running into one on a jungle trek. But unfortunately, that wasn't a miracle that would happen to us.
So we're getting to the end of the trail, and you always kind of come out feeling like, did I miss something? But there's something amazing just right beside me you just didn't see. And the answer is probably yes. There's so many things that are so good at hiding, and we're so noisy too. We're too big for these forests. But even though I didn't see a Kodkod, I'm not disappointed. I haven't been here. It's just an amazing forest. It's a magical place.
The odds were always against him. The forest is dense and massive, and there's only a few thousand small cats on an island the size of Puerto Rico. Kodkods are also mostly nocturnal and spend most of their days hiding in trees and in bushes. But it's amazing to see the Kodkod's natural habitat and the majesty of one of the most amazing ecosystems on Earth.
Thanks, Andreas.
Outside of the rainforest, Kodkods have been running into humans for hundreds of years. It's an encounter that usually doesn't end up well for them.
Human activities in their territory are pushing them into ever smaller pockets of native forests.
Farming, human-caused forest fires, habitat fragmentation, and diseases from pets have shrunk the Kodkod's habitat and population. Studies have shown that they don't even seem to like planted forests, possibly because they don't have the hiding spots and denning sites as older forests do. Other predators, such as foxes, adapt much better to these exotic forests. Kodkods need the undergrowth of the rainforest to sneak up on prey, and many of their prey do too. Less prey availability and fewer places to hide lead to fewer Kodkods. Fragmentation of their habitats has also led to very low genetic diversity in some populations. In fact, Kodkods have some of the lowest genetic diversity ever recorded in mammals.
Unfortunately, their population size is shrinking.
There are only 10,000 Kodkods left in the wild, in about 160 square kilometers of viable habitat. That means that in an area the size of Manhattan, there would only be about 2 guineas on average. But in the areas where they're most abundant, a male's territory is about the size of Central Park, and females occupy areas a quarter of that size. And even though there's so few of them, they still carry a negative stigma in parts of their range.
Attitudes towards the guinea have historically been negative. In rural areas, especially in farming communities,
These cats have been perceived at best as annoying pests and sometimes as dangerous threats. Some people even think that they could kill goats. Although, I mean, look at this little guy. You think he could do anything to a goat? Nah. To this day, close to 50% of the rural populations of southern Chile see this cat as harmful due to their effects on poultry farms. In some indigenous communities, they're even seen as bad omens. In these areas, it's not uncommon for farmers to kill guineas and keep their pelts as trophies. The good news is that there are lots of people trying to save the Kodkod, like the Guinea Working Group, who besides doing lots of work in education, are also doing lots of scientific research. The group encourages locals to participate in citizen science projects, reporting their sightings to collect as much data as possible. They also do educational projects to get people to learn to love the Kodkod. Some projects even include life-size sculptures to teach people what to look for. Additionally, they put up signs on busy roads in the Guineas Range to alert drivers of the presence of the cat. Road mortality is one of the biggest threats to the Kodkod's conservation, but the signs let people know to be mindful of wildlife on the road. Thankfully, the younger generations seem to have a more positive attitude towards the cat and broader understanding of its role in the ecosystem. This will hopefully lead to improved and more generalized conservation efforts over time. The guinea, being a charismatic predator, is slowly becoming an icon of Chilean fauna. This is helping overcome negative attitudes towards them. Still, for these communities, protecting poultry continues to be a priority, and local Kodkod conservation efforts need an element of conflict prevention and resolution between cats and farmers. The Kodkod is one of the most amazing secrets of South America, but with so many people working to protect them, we're optimistic that their populations can recover. It still requires a lot of work, so if you can, give them a hand. Or a paw. So, what should we talk about next? Please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching. See ya! Another big thanks to the Guinea Working Group. A mysterious hunter from a surprising lineage that has colonized most of the tropical habitats in the Americas. A mortal enemy of one of the Amazon's most charismatic creatures. This killer is the shadow of a shadow. Mysterious, elusive, deadly. This is the jaguarundi. The jaguarundi is one of the most widespread cats in the Americas, one of the most diurnal, and one of the most adept to grassland environments. And yet, we know very little about these elusive animals. In many ways, the jaguarundi seems to resemble weasels and teras more than they do other cats. In fact, reports of jaguarundis are often misidentified mustelids. Their elongated body, solid color without spots or rosettes, and relatively small limbs and ears give them a prehistoric look. Early cats, such as Proilurus, probably looked more like jaguarundis than tigers or domestic cats. For a while, they were a mystery. Why are they so different from other Central and South American cats, like margays and ocelots? The answer turned out to be that they belong to a completely different lineage and are more closely related to cougars and cheetahs. Cheetahs seem like a weird cousin to an American small cat, but there were cheetahs in North America for millions of years, until about 12,000 years ago. And like their cousins, they originated in Eurasia and migrated to the Americas via the Bering Strait. American cheetahs died out during the Holocene megafauna extinction event, which also saw the end of American lions, mammoths, and ground sloths in the region. But cougars and jaguarundis, who managed to colonize South America, survived there and later came back to recolonize North America. This difficult evolutionary history created sturdy and adaptable hunters. Jaguarundis survive in a variety of environments, from jungles to savannas to semi-arid thorn scrubs. But their success is limited by the success of their two mortal enemies, humans and ocelots. Humans hunt jaguarundis for sport and to protect their livestock, and ocelots often outcompete and catch jaguarundis for food. Ocelots can be up to 15 kilograms and are nearly as good at hunting on the ground as they are in the trees. Jaguarundis are on average only 5 kilograms and prefer sticking to the ground, where their gray or reddish coloration keeps them hidden from predators and prey. Ocelots are avoided with such rigor that jaguarundis usually hide for the entirety of their nemesis's nocturnal hunting shift. These little stocky cats will start hunting at sunrise, when the ocelot sleeps, and stay out until sunset. And unlike their bigger rivals, jaguarundis are also able to thrive in open grasslands. A study on the Mexican population showed that jaguarundis spend half of their time on open pastures and the other half in forests, while ocelots spend over 80% of their lives in jungle trees. Jaguarundis don't get to eat too many monkeys or nesting birds, but instead, they catch a huge variety of small prey. The average weight of their prey is 400 grams, about the size of a large rat. Ground-feeding birds and rodents such as guinea pigs are their favorite prey. But they are generalists, and in different areas, their diet varies. In areas with abundant birds, they can leap over 2 meters to catch them in mid-air. As a general rule, they eat whatever is most abundant and easy to catch, even if it's larger prey. In areas near humans, chickens are the easiest prey. This puts them in conflict with farmers who often kill them to protect their poultry. Because of their adaptability, they have colonized most of the Americas, from North America to Argentina. Only their cousins, the cougars, have a larger range in the Americas. There used to be reports of them in the southern United States, from Texas to Alabama, but the last confirmed sighting was a roadkill from 1986. Rapid urbanization and habitat fragmentation likely caused the disappearance of the American jaguarundis. In their current range, the populations are stable, especially in the rainforests and near grasslands of Mexico and the Amazon. They're currently considered a species of least concern, though their habitat is shrinking in some parts of their range. And though they're found in a massive expanse of land, they live in very low densities, and in some cases require ranges of up to 100 square kilometers to get enough food. Luckily, their adaptability and generalist diets make them great survivors, and more resilient to change than other New World cats. But that doesn't mean we can get complacent. Protecting their habitats protects these magnificent hunters as well as other animals in their ecosystems.
The weaseliest and weirdest dog you've likely never seen. It might look like a bear/wiener dog mix, but it's really a ferocious Amazonian hunter that can take down prey as large as a tapir. This is the bush dog. Bush dogs are one of the weirdest and most elusive dogs in Latin America. It sees everything that other wild dogs do, and it does the opposite. But that converse approach to life is what allows it to thrive across much of the continent. Bush dogs live everywhere, from Costa Rica to the northern tip of Argentina. They seem to thrive in tropical rainforests, but have also been observed in grasslands, swamps, and pretty much anywhere that gives them enough cover and access to water. Okay, so a jungle dog that likes water. What's so strange about that? Well, the bush dog takes that wet dog smell to another level. They're amazing swimmers, in part because of their webbed toes, and their bodies with small legs make them efficient swimmers. They're kind of like the otters of dogs. Bush dogs can chase prey in water, and when hunting in packs, they can even set traps to force their prey to get into the water, where another bush dog is ready for them. This strategy is especially effective against rodents like pacas and capybaras, which often jump into the water to escape ocelot and jaguar attacks. Imagine evading a massive jaguar just to get eaten by a 5-kilo bush dog. But don't let looks fool you. These canids are smaller than beagles, but have been observed hunting tapirs, the largest wild animal in the Amazon. To hunt them, the pack chases the tapir and bites at their legs several times until the tapir is felled by ankle injuries and blood loss. It's death by 1,000 little annoying cuts. Pretty much no animal is safe from these dogs. They, like many other canids, are extremely adaptable and will go for the most abundant prey available. In the Pantanal region of Brazil, 9-banded armadillos make up over 90% of their diet,